Hi, thank you for joining me today. I am Joe Krashenko, and you are listening to Gun Talk with Joe. Tonight's special guest is going to be Attorney Jeff Young, a.k.a. the gun lawyer. I'm getting kind of excited about that. He's not here right now, but he shall be here in a few minutes. Tonight we're going to talk about some really cool topics that are affecting us in the gun community out there. One of them being YouTube, how they're banning all the videos, gun-related videos. We're going to be talking about a giveaway that we're doing. This is a gun safe, personal gun safe, one gun. And we're going to be giving it away to one lucky winner out there. Then we're also going to talk about the new policies that they're having over at the Stoneman Douglas High School. We'll get into that. Then we're going to start talking about some of the laws out there that just came into effect the other day that are going to, and we have some new ones coming up that are going to affect us gun owners and concealed weapons holders out there. So let's just jump right into this. Again, I am Joe. You're listening to Gun Talk with Joe. And if you happen to miss any of the show or you want to see some recaps of it, you can just go right to our Facebook page at Gun Talk with Joe, our Twitter page, or our website, again, guntalkwithjoe.com. So let's just jump right into this real quick. YouTube. We've all been through this before. Anytime something happens, our YouTube, all of our outlets via the internet start saying they're going to ban everything with guns. And guess what? They usually do. There's a lot of arguments. First thing this morning when I was getting up, people are texting me and emailing me about this issue and wanting to know my feelings on it. It's simple. Their house, their rules. No, it's their page. We're putting our videos on their page. If they don't want our videos there anymore, I guess they have the right to take them off. Do I agree with that? Do I want to hear that? No. We do a lot of advertising for my gun shop on YouTube, and it's pretty effective for us. Same thing with Facebook and all the other social media outlets. I know they got some weird rules. I choose to follow all the rules, and I've never had any problems. Other shops I know have problems. That's the way things work. I'm sorry. Now, for them banning things, again, I do not think it's right. They are censoring. They're the first ones to be up in arms if we censored what they had to say or what they wanted to show in their videos. And for the stuff that you can find on YouTube, I'm shocked that they're going to censor our videos on how to disassemble and properly field strip and clean a firearm and reassemble it. And you know what I'm talking about, the videos out there. I'm not going to get into it on this show, but they're going to ban them. What can we do about it? Again, there's not much we can do. This is their business. It's their page. It's their house. It's their rules. However, we can still fight back. Stop watching YouTube videos. Get off YouTube. It's that simple. Because guess what? They're making money on the advertisers. If you're not paying for YouTube right now, the premium, whatever they're calling it, every time you go to watch a video, pretty much, especially if it's a popular video, ads start popping up. You got to watch the commercial ahead of time for a couple seconds. That's how they're making their money. So guess what they don't make if you don't go in there and watch it? Zero. Goose egg. Nothing. So how do we fight back? There's millions of us out there that legally own, possess, and use firearms. Stop going to YouTube to watch the videos. If you need to learn something about a gun, go visit your local gun shop. Maybe go to your local gun shop's website. Maybe they have those videos right on there. Stay off YouTube. That's the only way I can tell you to fight back on this. There's nothing much I think that we can do about it. I could be wrong. If I'm wrong, again, let me know. Send me a tweet, send me a message on Facebook, whatever it's going to be. Let me know about this. Plus, let me tell you, I'm not too keen on the whole tweeting thing. Not up to date on that one. I'm getting there. I know it's old school. Everybody should know how to do this already, but I'm not there yet. So, again, I could be wrong. This is just my opinion on this. Now, let's just jump into our gun safe giveaway that we're doing. We joined forces with a couple other businesses out there, one of them being Title II Manufacturing. They're based out of Sarasota, Florida. Good friends of ours out there. Of course, my business, Aegis Tactical. We're going to be donating a gun safe, and we're going to be giving it away to one lucky winner. It's easy how to win. All you got to do is go to the Gun Talk with Joe Facebook page. Write your name in the comments, put your friend's name, somebody you want to have the safe. So let's say you know somebody that might be a single mom, single dad, whatever it's going to be, and they have a gun, but they just can't afford the safe right now to keep it secured. We'll give them one for free. It's that simple. Put their name in there. Get your friends to like the page, comment on the page, comment on that post. And the one with the most comments and likes wins. It's pretty simple. And we're going to be doing this Monday morning. That's tomorrow morning. We'll be giving this safe away. So it's a real quick thing to do. Now, the Marjorie Stoneman Douglas High School has implemented some new rules that are going to take effect after spring break. There's a lot of people up in arms over this, and I don't see it. So I need your help out there to help see this. And I'm going to talk about it with Jeff, the attorney, when he gets in here. But one of them being, let's put it to you this way. If you ever went to a ball game, a football game or something like that down here in the state of Florida, you know you got to go through now metal detectors. A lot of them want you to have the clear bags. They search you. They search the bags. When was the last time there was any major shooting at one of these sporting events? When was the last time there was a shooting at a sporting event around here? I don't recall. But this is what the school's trying to do. And honestly, I don't disagree with them. So starting when they come back from spring break, all students have to have clear backpacks. And here's the kicker. The school's going to provide the backpacks the way I read it. So it's not costing the parents anything. A lot of people are saying, how's this going to help? How's this going to help? I think it's going to help because it's going to stop people from bringing things into the school they can't bring. Where they could put any type of firearm, anything in there, just hide it in their backpack and nobody was checking it. So now it's going to be something they can, any kind of supervisor with the RSO, the teachers, whatever, can walk by and they can see if what's in the bag. Now, I'm sure they're still going to have presumed privacy for people when they have to have their personal hygiene products or anything like that. Yes, you're going to be able to have a small bag, keep those products in there inside this clear backpack. The backpack is obviously just so they can see if you're bringing in any contraband into the school, weapons, alcohol, drugs, whatever. I'm not disagreeing with this. I have a young son that's in high school down here in Sarasota. That would not offend me at all if the school said this is what we're going to start doing, especially if they offered to buy the backpack for me. You know, my old saying, if it's free, it's for me. Now, they also said they might start bringing in metal detectors. I saw such a backlash on this online that I was kind of taken back a little bit again. We're talking about the security and welfare of our children out there. And again, I'm going to go be a little selfish here, and I have my child in the high school down here. I don't mind if they're going to search him and all the other students as they go into the school. If that means he has to get there 20 minutes early so he can be stand in line to be searched, that's what it is. Because I know then that the school, the county, everybody's doing the best that they can to make sure our kids are safe. So if that means they have to be inconvenienced for a few minutes, so be it. Same thing when we go flying. You go to the airport. I don't know what the wait time is now. I haven't traveled in a while. But it used to be you had to get there at least 2 hours ahead of time, wait in line. The lines, I was never there when it was that long. And you get searched. I'm fine with that. I want to make sure I get to my destination location safe and sound. I want to make sure my loved ones that are with me get to that destination place safe and sound. So I want to make sure my kid, when he goes to school, that he returns home safe and sound. The one thing I want him to worry about when he's at school is his education. And again, if he's just inconvenienced for a few minutes, so be it. It's that simple. Now, again, I could be wrong. Things are changing. Let me know if I'm wrong. Send us some messages. Let us know. I'm going to talk about this with the attorney, Jeff Young, in just a few minutes. And when he gets in here, too, we're also going to talk about some of the new gun laws that took effect. One of them, the waiting period for firearms. There's now a mandatory 3-day wait on all firearms. There are a few exceptions, and we're going to go over those. We're going to talk about the banning of the bump fire stocks. This has been a really heated topic out there. Hopefully Jeff can spread some light on it, because their definition of the bump fire stocks and anything that alters the normal rate of fire of the firearm is going to fall under this category. And what they're saying is if you own it now, that's fine. But as of October 1st, you'll be a felon. So that's kind of weird. And we need to get this changed. We need to spread some light on this subject. Another thing we're going to talk about is a new red flag law that we have down here. It all came under the Gun Control Act that they brought into effect a couple weeks ago. There's 2 people so far that we know of that have lost their guns temporarily. They were taken away by law enforcement officers and judges because they were deemed not mentally fit. How do you feel about this? That's the big question. How do you feel? Is this a good law? Is this a bad law? Is this going to help us out as, law-abiding citizens, protecting our Second Amendment rights? Is this going to help us or is this going to hurt us? We need to know what you feel, so make sure you let us know. And again, you can do that on all of our social media outlets, Facebook, Twitter, all that fun stuff. Send them to us. We can see them as they're popping up, and we'll respond to you as quickly as possible. So when we return, we're going to have attorney Jeff Young, the gun lawyer, here with us right here on Gun Talk with Joe, and we're going to spread some light on some of these new laws and let you know how they actually affect you and what we can do to possibly get these laws changed. We'll be right back. And we're back, and you're listening to Gun Talk with Joe, and now we are honored to have the gun lawyer, Jeff Young, sitting next to us here, going to answer some questions. How's it going, Jeff?
Pretty good. Not too bad.
You ready to talk about some of these new crazy rules that they have here in the state of Florida?
Of course. It seems like all I've been talking about for 3 weeks now.
Yeah, this is a hot subject, and there's really one I really want to get your opinion on, but let's start with the basic ones everybody keeps asking about. First, it's going to be this waiting period now. Everybody has to wait 3 days, no matter if it's a long gun or a handgun.
Right.
But there are a few exceptions. Mm-hmm. Personally, how do you feel about that?
Well, I mean, I disagree with it just like everything else. My issue with waiting periods has always been nobody has yet to show me like an article or something that says somebody went to a shop and bought a gun that day, passed their background check, and drove somewhere and committed a mass shooting or any type of crime. So this notion that people are just so angry that they want to kill somebody, but they don't want to grab a knife or run them over with a car or whatever, so they're going to go down and pay $500 to buy a brand new Glock, wait in the store for 2 hours for the background check to go through, and then go murder the person with the Glock that they just bought. That concept to me is ludicrous and doesn't make any sense. So I've never been in favor of waiting periods because it's just one of them things that it doesn't solve any problem. I've never seen anything have to do with it.
I agree. I think it's a little ridiculous, especially the 3 business day waiting period.
Right.
So if you bought the gun on a Friday, pretty much you're out of luck till the following Thursday, the way the state wants us to do.
Yeah, I mean, and then you carve out exceptions. I mean, I don't know. It just doesn't. It's a problem or solution in search of a problem. I've never seen that be an issue. So they came up with a law to address something that was never a problem in the first place. So it's just stupid.
Yes, I agree with you there. And the exceptions are, well, if you have a concealed weapons license in the state of Florida, so it has to be a Florida concealed weapons license, you're exempt from the 3-day wait for handgun, long gun. If you are a law enforcement officer, corrections officer, or active military, you're exempt. Kudos. They finally did that. Now, when they first came out with that, we were told by FDLE that was for all guns. Right. Then when we read a little further into the law,
it's only for the long guns.
It's only for long guns. Really? You couldn't just add into the law there's an active current law enforcement officer that wants to buy a new gun for either his backup or her backup or off duty. Right. No, they still got to do a 3-day wait if they don't have a concealed weapons license, which they don't need.
Right.
And they fall under HR 218 where they can carry anywhere in the country, any U.S. territory. Makes no sense.
Of course not. Right. So, yeah, if you're a law enforcement officer, you have to wait 3 days to buy a handgun, but you can walk out with a long gun the same day. It doesn't make any sense. None of it makes any sense.
No, it's just another knee-jerk reaction by our politicians.
Sure. And again, this isn't a situation. I mean, this kid, obviously everything is in response to Parkland, and he didn't buy a long gun with a waiting period. I mean, he didn't buy it 3 days before the shooting. So again, a 3-day wait period would have made absolutely no difference in that case. The firearm that he used, the rifle that he used, he'd bought in long before this incident. So why slap in a 3-day waiting period for a rifle in response to a case where a guy didn't buy the rifle 3 days before he did a shooting? Again, it's a solution in search of a problem.
Exactly. That's a nice way of putting it. It's just a politician looking for some votes from the other side.
Yep.
The other exemptions for the 3-day wait are if you're, and this is what we were just talking about off the air, if you have a hunting license down here in the state of Florida, but it's also the way the law is written, it's the hunter certification or the 16-hour hunter safeties course, and the certification card. Then the law also states, or an active Florida hunting license.
Correct.
Under FDLE, the rules for all of our firearms dealers out there, it actually says they have to have all 3.
Right.
Because they forgot one little word. Or. They put everything N. So they have to have the 16-hour course and the certification card and the license.
Right. Yeah. Apparently, FDLE just finally, after several days, sent out its new memo, I guess is what you all call in the gun industry, that kind of lays out what the new rules are and what the new procedures are. And I guess in that memo, right, it says that the person has to have all three. You have to have the class, the certificate, and the license. But the statute clearly says or. It doesn't say and for all three. It says or. So even the FDLE's interpretation or whatever of the law that they put in the memo that they sent out to the dealers to give them directions on what to sell is not in compliance with the language in the law. So it just shows that nobody was ready for this thing. I mean, right after it happened, a lot of people were calling FDLE for guidance about what to do with guns that you have in pawn or guns on layaway. And FDLE was literally telling them, call a lawyer. I got phone calls from numerous shops asking me, well, what can I do? What can I do? Because they couldn't get any guidance from FDLE because nobody thought this through. It was rammed through. They got it ready real quick, and it was a knee-jerk reaction, and nobody was even prepared for it.
Yeah, I think it was a Friday afternoon at 5 o'clock. The FDLE eligibility system went down, and that's the system we use to run background checks.
Yep.
And so it'll be back up in a few minutes. It came back up with all these new rules.
Yep.
But there was no instructions for the dealers.
Yep.
How
there
to
was
follow
no instruction.
it. And then we had to go home, and luckily we have a smart guy here, and he read the 105 pages to kind of understand it. I'm sure, Jeff, you did the same thing. And still we were confused. And then, like Jeff just said, we called FDLE, and their response to us is, we're not attorneys.
Right.
But I'm like, well, you're the ones that enforce these rules, these laws.
Sure.
And you don't even know about them.
Yeah, you call FDLE, they tell you to call ATF. You call ATF, they tell you to call FDLE, and then you call FDLE, and they say, "Fine, call a lawyer."
Yeah,
none of it makes
and
any
ATF
sense.
has nothing to do with that
right.
part.
That's why they say
law.
That's why they say call FDLE, right? Because it's got nothing to do with them. But again, I think it just shows the rush to do this, obviously, for only political reasons. There's nothing in here that I think would have prevented anything that happened down there or any of those future ones. It was all about scoring political points, and they did it so fast and so sloppily that they couldn't even get their own agencies on board for what was doing, and they're still having screw-ups.
Well, I'm sure if our listeners have a good memory, I think he lost a lot of political.
Yeah, no, I actually sent Governor Scott several emails telling him that I disagreed with it and that I plan on not voting for him on any more elections. I mean, he can't run for governor anymore because he's termed out, but I think he was going to run against Bill Nelson. Now, Bill Nelson is obviously an extreme gun grabber, but quite frankly, at least he tells that to you to your face, so you know what's going on. He's not just going to backstab you when it becomes politically expedient to do so. So I take trust and all that stuff more important than your actual position. So I told him several times on emails that I wasn't going to vote for him, and I assumed a lot of other people did too, but they obviously didn't care.
Did he ever respond to you?
No, I mean, you get the standard automatic response that says, "Thank you for your email, and we will give prompt attention to it." But I mean, I'm sure he got thousands of emails from people like that, but he also probably got thousands of people on the other side that said, you need to pass this. So he made a political calculation and he went with it. And that's not something I appreciate, and I'll remember it.
Do you think they're going to make any changes to this new law or fine tune it in any way?
I don't believe that the legislature is going to. I believe it's going to be fine tuned by the courts when it works its way through the system, thanks to some of the NRA lawsuits and stuff are out there. But I don't think at this point there's any political will to go in there and retouch that thing because it's too hot of a potato.
I just don't want to be the first victim of this law.
Yeah, well, I mean, there's already been, I'm sure there's already people who, lots of people are losing their money. I mean, if you have a bump stock, they're now illegal. You're not going to get your money back. If you have a gun, if you're 18 or 19, you have a gun on layaway, you're not getting that money back. If you have a gun in pawn, you're not going to get that money back. I mean, this is costing people money. It's costing people time.
Yeah.
It's awful.
It is. And we're going to get to them. Bump fire stocks in a minute.
Sure.
Let's go to the age restriction now. Now, in the state of Florida, you have to be 21 to buy either a long gun or a handgun. Previously, you could be 18 to buy a long gun. So you could buy a rifle, shotgun, 18 years old. And we see, come into our shop, they turn 18, they want to buy a rifle.
Sure.
They finally have rights. They run in to buy a rifle. Whether it's a little Ruger 1022 or they're buying an AR or a hunting rifle, whatever it's going to be. Now they can't.
Right.
I'm totally against this one.
Well, sure. I mean, I think everybody would be against that. I mean, when you're 18, that's basically when all of your rights become vested. I mean, look, when you're under 18, everybody is born with the inalienable rights of freedom of speech and Fourth Amendment rights and things like that. But some of them get extended, like voting, et cetera, et cetera. But when you hit 18, everything is kicked in by that point, except apparently now the Second Amendment. It's the only amendment that's been pulled out of the Constitution that says you have to wait another 3 years to exercise. Obviously, I think that's ridiculous. You've got 18-year-olds that are excited and want to go buy their rifle. You've got 19 and 20-year-old people that might be living on their own, some single mothers out there. You already said they can't buy handguns, and now you're telling them they can't buy shotguns or anything else to protect themselves. I mean, it's just ludicrous. And again, it was a solution in search of a problem. Yes, this guy was under the age of 21, but some of the firearms that he had gotten illegally. He had handguns that he wasn't allowed to have. So if somebody is going to do these things, they're going to find the firearms wherever they want to, and changing the law on this isn't going to make any difference.
Now, there are a few exceptions to this law.
Sure.
One of them being law enforcement and active military.
Yep.
But the key is it's active military.
Right. Doesn't count for reserves, et cetera.
Exactly.
Or retired, or a veteran that might have gone over there at 18 and got wounded
hurt
on the battlefield and now is on a medical discharge. Guess what? You got to wait till you're 21.
It makes no sense at all. Do you think this is going to hold up? Or?
No, I don't think this one's going to hold up at all. I think that out of all the things this is basically the only thing that they sued on and all the things that were in the law, because I think this one is clearly going to be unconstitutional because you've now stripped the rights completely. I mean, before when it was just the handguns, you may have been, quote, infringing on the rights, but you still had a right because you could buy the long guns. Now they stripped it 100% completely away, and I don't see how under any constitutional analysis you could say that that's going to hold muster, that you can't have any firearm rights now until you're 21. And the carve-out exceptions, I mean, look, I'm pro-law enforcement, I'm pro-military, but I don't particularly think it's fair to say that government people get to have guns. So basically what you're saying is if you want to exercise your Second Amendment right, you got to come work for the government.
Yeah,
that's it. If you don't want to work for the government, you can't have your Second Amendment rights. But if you come work for us, we'll let you have guns. Well, I'm sorry. I don't like the idea of the government having guns and not private citizens. So although I respect law enforcement and military, it's a good for the goose, good for the gander thing. I don't like the idea of the government saying that they're the only ones that get to have firearms. That scares me.
Now, if I'm correct, they can't purchase the firearm. So they can't purchase any gun until they're 21.
Correct.
But they can legally possess the long gun.
Yeah, I mean, you can possess. There was no crime against possession, just like there really wasn't for handguns. I mean, they couldn't buy handguns, but you can go to the range and give a handgun to your underage person and they can shoot it. So it wasn't necessarily possession. But now you can't buy it at all. You can't buy it from a dealer. You can't buy it from a private person. You can't sell to anyone under 21. The only thing that can happen is you can be legally gifted a firearm from a family member. That's about the only exception. So now if you're 18 and you can't buy a gun, you just have Uncle Joe or Grandpa Jim go buy it for you and give it to you as a gift, and you still have it. So again, I don't know how you think that's going to fix anything.
Another knee-jerk reaction.
Exactly.
I think if somebody wants to get in touch with you, Jeff, how do they do this?
The easiest way is just call my office. My office is in downtown Sarasota on Fruitville and Tuttle. The number is 941-953-9692. You can also go to my website. It's minnesotagunlawyer.com, and you can send me an inquiry through there for email, or go on MGT, Facebook. I can't tell you how many direct messages I get every day from people with, hey, I got a quick question about this, a quick question about this. As long as I'm not out to dinner with my family and I'm sitting around doing nothing, I'll be more than happy to answer you.
I am one of those people. And yes, he responds pretty quick on that. Listen, when we come back, we're going to talk about the bump stock ban and as well as the red flag law. So please stay tuned. Okay, we're back again. I'm Joe Krashenko. You're listening to Gun Talk with Joe, and we have the gun lawyer here, Jeff Young. And now we're going to talk about the banning of the bump fire stocks. And
everybody's
this is a
favorite accessory,
Yeah, this is a heated debate over, like you just said, the favorite accessory of all of our rifle people. I don't have one.
No, look, I think they're useless. I think anybody who's worth their weight in gold as a shooter will tell you that they're nonsense, that they do no good on your gun.
Well, it's a novelty item.
Sure.
But the problem is the way they wrote this law. And I'm just going to let Jeff just jump in here because it looks like they might be banning a lot more than just the bump fires.
Sure. Yeah. Look, I mean, again, it's something that I wouldn't want. And when you talk to most people in the gun community, they don't like them. And so what bothers me is a lot of people are like, so what? Let them be banned then because they're stupid. I would never own one. But the problem is once you give up a little bit of an inch, they want to take a mile and you got a slippery slope situation. So I'm against the bump stock ban, not because I'm a huge bump stock fan. It's just because it's another problem or solution in search of a problem. Now, obviously the guy in Vegas used one, but there were so many weird things about that case that I don't think that should be the basis for dealing with firearms. But in response to the shooting in Parkland, obviously the guy didn't use one. So I think it's stupid to try and ban them. I would never own one, but I just don't like banning them. If people want to have one, they should have one. The problem with this legislation, though, is it's weird because the heading clearly specifically says bump stock ban. Yeah. But then when you get into what the definition of qualifies as a bump stock, it's the most overbroad, loosey-goosey language that I've ever seen in my life. And in my interpretation and reading it is that that's going to cover so many more things than bump stock. I mean, I think you could almost make an argument if you're an overzealous law enforcement officer or a prosecutor that any sort of modification to a trigger is going to qualify under that statute. Certainly when you get into things like binary triggers, things of that nature that certainly increase the rate of fire. I don't think there's any doubt in my mind that at some point some overzealous cop or prosecutor is going to try and go after somebody who's got something on their gun that's not what we understand to be a bump stock.
Yeah, like the binary triggers, if you're not familiar with them, it's a trigger designed that you put in your rifle that when you press the trigger, it fires around, and when you release the trigger, it fires around. Again, I have a gun shop. I've sold in the past total of 5 bump stocks to clients. We put them on their guns for them, and 4 of the 5 came back and had us remove them. And this was years ago, folks. It wasn't any time recent. The one that we sold it to, we talked to him recently. He forgot that he bought it, and we put it on his gun. It's sitting on one of his rifles in the safe. But now he's got to take it off because, as of October 1st, he'd be a felon.
Right. Basically, when the law goes into effect on October 1st, you cannot possess a bump stock. It doesn't matter who bought it. A lot of people are asking me, well, what if I transfer my stuff to a trust? Is that going to be okay? Well, no, because again, the issue isn't ownership, it's possession. So even if something's in the name of a trust, it's in your house. Like, you have to physically hold it and take it places and do stuff with it. So it's a lot like, basically becomes like drugs. It doesn't matter if the marijuana belongs to your buddy Jim. If it's in your car in your center console, guess what? You're getting charged with marijuana because you have possession of it. So yeah, as of October 1st, if you haven't gotten rid of these things, either destroyed them or sold them to somebody who doesn't live in Florida or whatever, you will now become a felon. It's a 3rd-degree felony, which is punishable by 5 years in prison.
Wow.
And again, like I said earlier, the state's not giving you any money for that. It's not like you can go down to the sheriff's department and turn it in and get your money back or anything like that. They basically made them illegal.
How do they destroy them?
Well, I think if you took them to a sheriff's department or somewhere like that, they would probably destroy them just like they do all their other illegal confiscated firearms. But you got to get rid of it. Like, they don't tell you how. So again, you could legally sell it to somebody who doesn't live in Florida if you want to. Take a boat out and dump it in the middle of the ocean or whatever. But I mean, it's not drugs. You can't flush it down the toilet, but you can't have it. I mean, whether you got to chop it all up with a sawzall and throw it away or whatever.
Mail it to cousin Louie up in
absolutely.
another state.
You can give it away to anybody that doesn't live in the state of Florida. It's not illegal to transfer it or sell it. You cannot possess it. It becomes contraband item.
That's just crazy. And the triggers are the biggest thing that's concerning me.
Right. Again, nobody's going to cry or, like I said, constitutionally it upsets me if they're going to try and ban that because I think it's ridiculous. But nobody's going to really lose any sleep over those type of things. But if they start encroaching into other areas of gun modifications and your Johnny Glock trigger now all of a sudden becomes illegal to have on your gun, that's going to be a problem for thousands of gun owners because everybody's basically got a firearm that they've done some sort of modification on with the trigger or aftermarket accessory. And this statute is so poorly written when it comes to that topic, I think it's going to be a problem.
Yes. Speaking of Johnny Glock, one of his videos got pulled off YouTube, so he's getting banned from YouTube now for showing some kind of modification to a gun. I'm going to ask your opinion of that in the next segment. But again, I have a gun shop. We sell a lot of guns, especially Glocks. One of the first things people do is the trigger.
Yeah.
And some of it's just putting this little ghost connect, they call it, that just takes out what I call the Glock speed bump. It's just a little rough spot on the trigger. It just makes it smoother. It's really not lightening up the trigger at all. It's not doing anything. Is that going to fall into this?
I think it could. That's the problem. When you read the actual words that are in the statute, it is so broad. It basically to put it succinctly, it basically covers any modification that's done to your gun that makes it fire faster. So if you're saying something about it's a speed bump and you're taking it out, then one's going to think that, that makes your trigger go faster. That makes your gun fire faster. So, I mean, if you get charged with something like that, now, again, nobody knows if you've done any modifications, so it's not like anybody can kick in your door and come in there. But what I anticipate is now you're in a self-defense shooting somewhere, somebody attacks you, you shoot them, they're going to take your gun, and then they're going to look your gun over, as they always do when they confiscate those things. And yeah, they may say, look, you were justified in shooting that guy, but I think you got an illegal modification on your gun, so guess what? We're not charging you with murder, but we're going to charge you with a 3rd-degree felony for possession of a bump stock style device. That scares me, and I think that's going to be a problem. And that part of the law is going to have to be hashed out somehow. I don't know if it's going to be through litigation or somebody's going to get arrested. They're going to have to hire me. Then you got to call in an expert like you or somebody else to talk about the fact that it's not a bump stock. It's not really a modification. It's going to be a nightmare.
It's going to be. I mean, I would definitely call you if I got in trouble.
Yeah, I mean, look, I'm not trying to scare anybody. I'm not telling anybody to take their firearms apart now and go back to their original triggers or whatever. I mean, the law doesn't take effect till October, and maybe some of these things will be sorted out between now and then. But
I hope so.
I'm just telling people that, if they're just ignoring this law because they're saying, look, I'm 35, so I don't care about 21-year-olds, or I don't own a bump stock, so I don't care. There are things in this law that are going to affect everybody, whether you fall into these perceived categories or not. You need to be worried about this law because it's crap.
And I'm a true advocate for my concealed carry gun that I carry, my home defense gun. I don't touch the triggers myself. I keep them bone stock just for this incident. Because again, if you use it, they're going to confiscate it. They're going to test it. I don't want them to have any questions. If that gun came with a 6-pound trigger, that's what's staying in there.
Yeah, I haven't changed. I mean, I'll be honest. I haven't done a single trigger job on any of my firearms, rifles, or handguns. Now, it's not necessarily because I'm worried about prosecution. It's just because I'm lazy and I don't want to waste the money on it. If the gun shoots good, it shoots good.
That comment.
Right? Yeah. So I don't really bother with it too much. But no, I mean, again, I'm not trying to scare people. I'm not telling people to take their firearms apart or whatever. But it's something that needs to be paid attention to. I'm going to pay attention to it. I'm going to monitor any people that get charged with it and follow all these things because I'm curious to see. Look, most of the cops around here, they're great guys, but they're not necessarily gun knowledgeable people. I can guarantee you that the prosecutors and the judges don't know squat about firearms. I've dealt with that personally myself, both working there and not working there. So it's going to be a problem. I mean, I can see a prosecutor having these things land on their desk and they're not going to know what to do with it. And they're just going to start charging people.
Yeah, doesn't make any sense to me. Let's see how this pans out. And I don't want to see anybody being the first victim of this law.
No, I don't either.
So let's talk about this red flag law now. Sure. Spread some light on this because this one confuses me still. But as far as I know, as of today, well, you heard there was a new one this morning, but there's been 3 people that lost their firearms under this.
Right.
So basically what this law is telling you, a law enforcement officer or judge can say you're unfit mentally, and they can temporarily take possession of your firearms, take them from you.
Right.
My big question, how long is the temporary?
Well, there's a temporary is only for a couple weeks, and then the permanent one will be for a year. But basically the process is this. If law enforcement believes that you are a danger to yourself or others, and you have firearms in your possession / ownership, what they can do is they have to go to the clerk's office and they fill out a petition for risk protection orders, what they call them. And basically they put in all the facts about why they think that you're a risk and you can't have any firearms. That gets sent to a judge who will need to immediately review it. And then if the judge reads the paperwork basically and believes that there's enough evidence in there that they need to issue this temporary order, they issue a temporary order that says you can't have any firearms. The law enforcement officer then goes to your house and says, we've got this order, give me all your firearms. If you say, I don't have any firearms, or no, go pound sand, I'm not giving you my firearms, then they can go back to the judge and ask for a search warrant, and the judge will grant them a search warrant, and then they get to go into your house and look for all your guns and take your guns. And if they find guns and you've lied to them, then they can charge you with another crime for lying to them about the injunction. So that temporary one is in place for 2 weeks, and that happens ex parte, which means you have no say in it. It all happens between the law enforcement and the judges. So you get served with it. Within 14 days, then you actually have a hearing where you can come into court on your own in front of the judge. Law enforcement has to come in, and they have to present evidence to make that temporary one not necessarily permanent, but make it a final order, basically. It's a mini hearing. It's like a little trial in front of a judge. They get on the stand and testify. You're allowed to bring an attorney, and you cross-examine them or whatever. It's similar to like domestic violence injunctions. And they have a little mini hearing. If at the end of that hearing, the judge thinks, yeah, he's okay, he can have guns, then they throw out the order and it's over with. You're allowed to immediately go down, pick up your firearms from the sheriff's department.
So you can get them that day.
You can get them that day. Okay. Yeah, everything in there says immediately. Okay. So you can go down and get them that day. If they took your concealed carry permit, because it also means you can't have a concealed carry license, so they take your guns and your permit. If you win, they throw out the injunction and you can get your guns back and your permit back immediately.
Okay.
If you lose and they're able to prove that you do continue to pose this threat to the community or to yourself, then the judge will grant the order and make it a final order, and it will be good for a year, for 12 months.
Okay.
During that 12 months, you have one opportunity to file a motion to go back in front of the judge and say, I've fixed whatever my mental problems are. Here's the proof that I've gotten help. I haven't had any problems in the last 6 months or whatever it is. And if the judge agrees with you, again, they throw it out. If the judge doesn't agree with you, it stays in place until the end of the 12 months. You get one shot.
Wow.
Yeah. And then at the end of the 12 months, basically at month 11, they notify law enforcement that says, hey, there's only 30 days left on this. And they can then apply to have it extended for another 12 months. Then you get another hearing and you go in. If they can prove that it needs to be extended, it can be extended. So it can just continually be extended year after year after year upon law enforcement petition.
So this, when they put the petition into the clerk's office, that's going to give FDLE basically knowledge that this happened, so you can't go buy it for any reason. You can't go to a gun shop. You're going to fail the background check.
Yes. All the language says basically immediately upon it being ordered, it goes to the clerk's office, and the clerk's office is to immediately notify all the important people, the FDLE, the FBI, the local sheriff, the Department of Agriculture, if you have a license. Everything gets done immediately. So yes, as soon as that injunction is in place, probably within 20 minutes, you're not going to be able to buy a gun.
That's the one question I have, and we're going to have to answer it when we come back on this break. Are there doctors involved in this at all, in this decision-making process, or is it just the judge's expertise on mental health?
Short answer is no.
Excellent. We're going to get more into detail with that. Again, you're listening to Gun Talk with Joe, and we got Jeff Young, the gun lawyer here. We'll be back in a few seconds. Okay, we're back, and you're listening to Gun Talk with Joe. And again, we have attorney Jeff Young here, and he is the gun lawyer. He's the expert in all this stuff. And we were just talking about this new red flag law where the cops and the judges can basically say you're mentally unfit to have a firearm.
Yeah, there's no medical people involved at all. It's all based on the testimony of law enforcement. And basically, they get most of their information probably from neighbors or family members or whatever. But no, there's no medical staff involved. The law enforcement puts a petition together, submits it to the judge, and then the judge makes a decision. And even when you have the actual hearing in the courtroom, they can still do it because it's not for mental health. We have a section for that, right? It's called the Baker Act section, obviously. So this isn't necessarily for mental health. When you look at the criteria for granting it hardly says anything about mental health. It says like if they've got prior histories of domestic violence, which if you have a domestic violence conviction, you can't buy a gun anyway, so that's not making any sense to me. But it lists those type of things. Any prior allegations of use of a gun or assault or threats or whatever. There's literally nothing in there that says you must suffer from a mental health issue. So it's not really it's not even, right, everybody says they want to deal with mental illness, but this law doesn't really address mental illness. It just basically addresses if law enforcement can convince a judge that a particular person is a, quote, danger to themselves or to the community, then they can take their guns away without having any sort of doctors or anybody evaluate it.
Do you see or think that this can be abused in any way?
Oh, sure. I mean, look, I've been a defense attorney now for almost 16 years or so. I've been a lawyer for about 20. I spent the first several years at the state attorney's office. And look, I support law enforcement. I have a lot of friends that are law enforcement. It's like anything else. 90-something% of them are good people. But I have seen, obviously, law enforcement lie under oath. I've seen them forge and falsify arrest reports and probable cause affidavits. And that's not just my opinion. Like, I've had them actually get charged with perjury, and I've had to stop trials in the middle of it because they get caught. So I can envision a situation where if there's a particular person in a community that they believe is, I don't know, selling drugs or something along those lines, and they just can't get a search warrant for the house because they don't have enough evidence, I don't know. I could see them maybe elaborating or exaggerating one of these petitions or something to a court to try and get a search warrant to go in and look for, quote, guns. But hey, if I'm looking for guns and at the same time I find some marijuana or some cocaine or something, then I get to charge them with cocaine as well. Now, look,
it's a bonus.
Most people aren't going to cry for the drug dealer. I get that. And I mean, I understand that. I'm on your side. But if you're a constitutionalist and a civil libertarian and somebody who believes in the Fourth Amendment and the rule of law, you can't abide by something like that, regardless of whether the person's a bad person or not a bad person. So again, this law is a good law in theory. I get the concept where there probably is a class of people out there that aren't necessarily to the point where they can be committed, but yet we all would probably agree that crazy Joe down the street shouldn't have a firearm.
Not this Joe.
So I get the concept, but like any other concept, when you talk about domestic violence injunctions, great concept. We want to protect battered women, battered spouses, or whatever.
Definitely.
But as you can imagine, that gets abused like crazy. I mean, people go in there with false stories and they get angry at their boyfriends, and half the time they don't show up for the hearings. They get caught in lies, and just people get these injunctions slapped on them for no reason. Because if you're a judge and you have somebody that says, I think this guy's going to kill me, and you don't grant a temporary injunction, and then that guy does kill that person, you're not going to be a judge for very long. No. They're going to be the news people are going to be down here. You're just going to get excoriated, and you're going to be off the bench. So the temporaries, I believe, especially on domestic injunctions, are always granted. It is very rare that you will not get a temporary. Now, you may win ultimately at the hearing, usually because they get back together by then and then the person doesn't want to show up. So you may win at the hearing, but the ex partes are almost always granted because you don't want to be that one judge that doesn't grant it and then something really bad happens. Imagine if they submitted one on this kid and some judge said, no, I don't think you got enough. Then he goes out and kills all these people at the high school. That judge would be out of a job today. I mean, there's no question about it. So no judge is going to want to do that. So any of these petitions that land on their desk, I'm confident that 99% of them are going to get granted.
How about the first two that we have here? We got this one guy. I'm sorry, I forget his name, but he turned the power off in this condominium complex. His neighbors were shapeshifters.
Right, and he said Barack Obama was actually killed like in the 90s or something and came back as a zombie and ran for president. Yeah.
Now, for something like this, do you think that that's...
Yeah,
we can laugh.
Well, look, I mean, the issue, that case is a clear case. Yeah. I mean, that's a clear case. And there isn't anybody who can look at that case and say that that's not a problem. No. Now, he ended up being Baker acted as well. So obviously that was an issue there. So I'm not concerned about the real clear-cut cases like that. It's going to be these gray area cases. I mean, what if you're a soldier that comes back and you've got some PTSD and you don't like the fireworks going off in your neighborhood? Some neighbors like, that guy's freaking out over there because the fireworks are going out, and I know he's got firearms in his house. True. I mean, it's going to be those gray areas like that are the ones that are going to concern me. And the problem is again, you're going to lose your rights. They're going to grant that petition every time, and then the burden is technically on them, but it's not going to work that way in court. You're almost going to have to come in and prove that it's okay for you to have that firearm. And I just think in today's society or today's the situation and then the heightened awareness people have for this, I'm just afraid that judges are always going to side on let's take their guns away, because you don't want to be that judge that misses that kid in an injunction and then he kills a bunch of people. Nobody's going to want to do it.
So somebody's going to be guilty until proven innocent.
Right. I mean, it's awful hard. Once a judge grants a temporary injunction, it's awful hard to then come in there and get them to change their mind. Again, they usually change their mind because either the person doesn't show up, or if you get a really good defense attorney, sometimes you can cross-examine the person real well.
Like yourself, right?
Put on some evidence, and you can win those hearings. But once if there's enough stuff written on a paper to take your guns away, if somebody comes in and says it to you in your face, why would you all of a sudden say, well, now it's not enough to take their guns away? I mean, it's going to be there.
Yes. So I think we're feeling the same way about this. And again, I'd rather just see the person get Baker acted and let a doctor determine if they're mentally
right.
fit.
If the issue is mental illness, then you Baker act the person. They have to go into the hospital for 3 days and get evaluated. While they're there for those 3 days, if a doctor does a report that says, they're a danger to themselves or others, then send that report to the judge. Yeah. And then the judge can look at the report and say, I'm going to go ahead and grant an injunction until another doctor comes in and says that he's okay. That I don't have a problem with, because you're dealing with mental health. But they didn't want to deal with mental health. They want to deal with, quote, risk people or dangerous people. Yes. And there's just going to be, that's a wide open definition that I think is going to cause a problem.
Yes. Now, earlier I was talking about, before you got here, I was talking about this YouTube banning gun videos, anything gun related, anything that has a website that sells guns or related to guns, they're banning all the videos.
Right.
Again, I had people lighting me up this morning. That's a violation of our rights. I already said my piece this morning.
Sure.
What's your feeling on this?
Yeah, I mean, unfortunately, the issue is it's not a constitutional violation because it's not the government. In order to have a First Amendment violation of a, quote, free speech, it's got to be government action. So if the government came in and told YouTube, hey, get rid of all those things, then you'd have a problem with the free speech. But YouTube, just like Facebook and Twitter and everything else, is a private company. When you agree to use their platform, you agree to whatever their rules are. Now, it's a free speech issue in the sense of they are limiting who can speak and who can't speak. It's just not a constitutional free speech issue because they're a private entity. And look, this is a bad time right now to be people who own guns. I mean, I've never seen it go this bad so fast with all these stores that aren't selling stuff anymore. I mean, Kroger's not even putting gun magazines on the shelf anymore. They just decided they're not even going to put gun magazines on the shelf. So YouTube's ban of it, I mean, it's ridiculous. We're being jumped on. Unfortunately, there's no way to push back on a free speech issue. The way to do it is with a free market. Somebody's going to have to open up their own gun tube platform or whatever, and then we need to have a safe space for all of us to go where we can push back and people can stop the problem is they're free sites. So if you say you're going to stop using Facebook, it doesn't affect them because they don't charge anything. Facebook's got their own problems with their stock prices because of their analytical situation. But look, I mean, the free market is the way we're going to have to deal with this. We're going to have to find a place that we can all go that isn't going to come in and affect us like that. But as far as right now, look, YouTube can do whatever YouTube wants to do. It's not fair. It's not right, but fair is a place on Ringling at Robarts where you can buy a corn dog and ride on the tilt-a-whirl. It's got nothing to do with it's got nothing to do with how YouTube runs their business.
Okay, now we have Marjorie Stoneman Douglas High School. I guess they're putting in some new rules starting as soon as the students come back from spring break, and one of them is going to be that they have to have clear backpacks,
right?
Backpacks that they can see through. And cool thing is, the school's actually going to be providing the backpacks.
That's good.
I don't think that's a bad thing. There's no complaints there. I'm seeing a lot of people yelling about this that they don't like this.
Right.
They're anti this happening. Myself, as a parent, I don't see the problem with it.
Right.
But I might be missing something. How do you feel about this?
Well, yeah, I mean, it personally doesn't bother me either. I mean, I have a 14-year-old, and right after this happened, they actually banned backpacks. There were a couple of days where she couldn't go to her school and even bring a backpack at all. Which, she's a girl, so that angered the girls more, I think, than it angered boys for various reasons. But, I mean, that's not a bad idea. I mean, look, the courts have long held that you don't really have a lot of Fourth Amendment rights when you're on school campus. If you're a kid in a high school, they can search your lockers, they can search your bags, they can essentially search your cars in the parking lot. So, I mean, if that's a way that you can protect it, then that's fine. I mean, they should be doing that crap with cell phones. I mean, there's no reason kids should have cell phones while they're in school. They should check those in and get them back at the end of the day. So
that still amazes me. My son texts me during class. Yeah,
I mean, I think that schools need to crack down on discipline for children in lots of ways, and having clear backpacks where you can see what's coming in and what's going out. If you can have rules as it relates to cell phones and things of that nature, I mean, that doesn't particularly bother me.
How about the metal detectors that they might put in?
Oh, look, I mean, I think metal detectors, like anything else, is dependent on the school district where you're at. I mean, it may work in some, it may not work in others. The problem with Florida is, and I've said this for years now, is because we have such nice weather down here, all the schools are wide open, spread out campuses.
Yes.
If you go to the schools up north, which you probably know from being up there, they're all buildings. Like they're single buildings. You walk in one door and everything's inside in the hallways, and you go out by the same door. It's not like that in Florida. So you put a metal detector on the main entrance, so what? You can walk in through the ball field. You can walk in through the baseball field. You can go around in the back to the parking lot. I mean, a metal detector is not going to do any good because, and again, if it's in response to Parkland, explain to me how a metal detector would have stopped Parkland. The guy went there with a bag with his gun intent on killing a bunch of people. So you think he's going to go through a metal detector, or is he going to pull his gun out right there at the metal detector and start shooting everybody?
So if they do the metal detectors, either A, they got to have them at every door.
Right.
Got to be security staff or RSO with every door.
Right. Yeah. You got to have people monitoring it. And then so the guy walks through the metal detector and it goes off and says he's got a gun. So he's just going to pull it out right there and kill everybody that's standing in line at the metal detector. Again, it's not going to solve. If it's in response to the Parkland shooting, that's not going to solve it. Now, again, if you're in up north places and a lot of the inner city ones, they have metal detectors because, again, there's only one door you can go in and out of.
Yeah.
But these open campuses down here, I mean, I went to Venice High School. It's on the intercoastal. You could swim and sneak on a school if you wanted to, or ride a boat. I mean, and that was the thing with Parkland. If you look at that Parkland campus, it's the largest school that I think I've ever seen in my life. It's over blocks. It's like a college. It's ridiculous. There is absolutely no way that you could secure a school like that with metal detectors at the front door.
So we're just talking a lot of staff.
So a lot of it is deterrence. It's like anything else. When you put the sleeping security guard at the front door of a place, he's not there really to protect a place. It's a deterrence. So if you want to tell people, look, we have a closed campus, you can't walk your kid to the door anymore. We're going to put metal detectors out there. It could potentially scare some people away who may want to sneak something in that they can't sneak in. I think you're going to catch more people with things like pocket knives and things like that. They're not going to find. But if you got a mass shooter with a rifle or a handgun or whatever he's going to do, metal detector ain't gonna do squat.
Agreed.
If anything, you're gonna funnel everybody in one spot and make it easier for him to shoot people. It's just like when you go to Busch Gardens or something, they have metal detectors so you can't get inside, but there's a crowd of hundreds of people trying to get in the entrance because they have to wait to go through the metal detector. So it's easier to just pull up in the parking lot and you've got fish in a barrel as opposed to having to track them down somewhere. So it's like anything else, it just makes it worse.
There are nutty people out there and bad people do bad things.
Yeah, you can't stop that stuff. I don't care what you do to a school.
Well, folks, let us know how you feel about this. Go on our Facebook page, our Twitter. Let us know how you feel about it. We had one comment already. I guess one of the schools here in Sarasota County already has that, Oak Park school in Sarasota. I just don't know if it's the clear bags or the metal detectors. Waiting to hear back from that person. But please go on our pages, check us out. We'll leave all of Jeff's information there. So if you need a good attorney, you'll know how to get in touch with them.
Yeah.
Jeff, again, how can I get in touch with you?
Sure, yeah. The easiest is just to call the office number. It's area code 941-953-962, or visit the website, minnesotagunlawyer.com.
All right, Jeff, thank you very much. And you were listening to Gun Talk with Joe. We will see you next week.